there. Welcome to Truth Talk Thursday on a Friday. That's weird, right? Well, I wasn't able to get on yesterday. A few things came up that I wasn't expecting, so I wasn't able to hop on. But I didn't want you guys to miss this Truth Talk Thursday, so I decided to come at you today on a Friday. So that's why we're here today. In case you don't know, my name's Jenny Kimmel, and I'm your host. And today I want to talk about a question that haunted me after my marriage ended. And maybe it's something you've wrestled with too. That question is simple but heavy. Where do I fit? Because sometimes life changes so much, the old roles that you're used to no longer fit, but the new ones aren't fully formed yet either. And in that in between, it's easy to feel lost, like you're standing on the outside of your own life, trying to figure out where you belong. Out of place with my friends. So I think the first time I really felt this way was back in September of 2023 when I went out with my good friends Michelle and Darren. Everyone else there was a couple. And then there was me, and I felt like a total third wheel. I didn't have a place, I wasn't a couple anymore, and sitting there surrounded by people I cared about, people who had been a part of my life for so many years, even longer than my ex-husband, I suddenly felt invisible. It wasn't that they made me feel that way, they totally welcomed me. It wasn't them at all. They were kind, they included me, they laughed with me, they kept my spirits up, but deep down, I felt different. I felt separate, like I was standing on the outside of something I used to belong to. And it's amazing how quick that shift happens. One day, you're part of a couple woven into this rhythm of dinners and date nights and double dates with your friends, and next, you're on your own. The conversations are still the same, but your perspective has changed. You notice the little things you didn't before, the hand holding, the inside jokes, the way couples lean into each other, and suddenly you're hyper aware of your own empty hands and your own space at the table. I never realized how much my identity, how much my sense of belonging was simply tied to being a part of a couple until it wasn't anymore. That night, I laughed, I smiled, I played along, but inside, the question kept echoing, where do I fit? Not with them, not in the way I used to. And it wasn't just about that night with my friends. It was the beginning of a bigger realization that everywhere I went, I was going to have to figure out who I was without the role of wife attached to me. Out of place in everyday life. It wasn't just with friends that I felt this. I felt this everywhere. At my kids' games, at school events, places that should have felt safe and normal suddenly didn't anymore. I wasn't the happily married woman sitting in the stands chatting with other moms, chatting with other parents, wearing my wedding ring, smiling for family photos. That role was gone. And with it went a sense of my identity I didn't even realize I had built my life around. I kept asking myself, who am I now? Because it wasn't about being a single woman. It was about being a single mom showing up at all these moments alone. I didn't know how people saw me anymore, but I know how I saw myself. Different, changed, like a puzzle piece that no longer fit. And then there was him. I wasn't his wife anymore. That word, that title had been stripped away in what felt like an instant. But at the same time, he wanted us to be friends, good friends at that. And my heart just couldn't process that. How do you look at someone who once promised forever, who once held every piece of your heart and call them just a friend? How do you share your life in a casual, friendly way with the very person who broke it apart? We do get along now, and I'm grateful for that. The bitterness has softened and the healing has done its work, but even today, I can't say we're truly friends because a true friend wouldn't have chosen to betray me the way he did. A true friend would have protected my heart and not shattered it. Back then, though, it was just so confusing. I didn't know where I stood with him or even in my own life. I felt like I was walking through my days wearing clothes that didn't belong to me anymore. They didn't fit, but I hadn't found anything new to wear yet either. That's what it felt like, out of place everywhere. Trying to carry on with routines, trying to show up for my kids, but always aware of this huge hole where my life used to fit together. Holidays and family. And then came the holidays. For 24 years, I had spent every single holiday with him. We had our rhythms, we had our traditions, and we had our own inside jokes. We had our way of doing things as a family. So when that first holiday season rolled around without him, it didn't feel right. It didn't feel whole. That's the only way I can explain it. I didn't feel like an outsider with my own family per se, because of course they loved me and welcomed me, but there was still this quiet emptiness that hung in the air. Thanksgiving in particular stands out. I can still see the table, the familiar sounds, the sound of my mom bustling in the kitchen. It looked the same as every other year, but it wasn't the same because he wasn't there anymore. And here's the thing, even with all the pain between us, even with the betrayal, I still found myself thinking about him. I still cared enough to make sure he got some of my mom's stuffing because it was always his absolute favorite. It was such a little thing, but to me, it meant I hadn't stopped seeing him as a part of me, part of us. I brought it to him because in my mind, that's what I had always done. Isn't that strange? After everything, I was still carrying pieces of the old us into the new reality. Half of me was living in the present, adjusting to this broken version of family, and the other half was still caught in the past, making sure he didn't miss out on something he loved. That right there is what the holidays felt like being split in two. Part of me was trying to embrace the traditions with my family and show up strong for my kids, and another part of me was aching for the familiar, even if that familiar was tied to someone who had hurt me. It made me feel out of place in my own traditions. Because the truth is, when someone who has always been there suddenly isn't, it shifts the meaning of everything. The food tastes the same, the decorations look the same, but the heart of it, the person you built those memories with, is missing. And no matter how hard you try, you can't ignore their absence. So even though I was surrounded by family, by love, by laughter, I felt off balance. I felt like something was always just slightly missing. And that's the part of the holidays no one really ever talks about. How they can highlight not just what you have, but what you've lost. Talking with my boys. It wasn't just me who felt out of place. My boys felt it too. There were moments when they would bring it up, sometimes quietly, sometimes almost in passing. They'd say things that told me they were feeling just as misplaced as I was. Sometimes when it was all five of us together, that didn't happen often, but sometimes when it did, they felt uncomfortable. The tension, the uncertainty of not knowing how to act or what to say, it just left them in this uncomfortable position. Other times it was when they were with him in spaces that didn't feel like home to them anymore. I could see it in their eyes and the way they carried themselves. They were trying to navigate a reality they never asked for, one that shifted the ground right underneath their feet. And so I would talk to them about it. I would admit that I felt it too. I would tell them I understand because I feel out of place sometimes too. This is the new way of life for us. It's not easy. It doesn't feel normal yet, but we are all learning and we're all going to work together and make it through. I wanted them all to know they were not alone. That it wasn't just them feeling strange or awkward or unsettled, it was all of us. And those conversations were hard because as a mom, I wanted to shield my kids from any kind of pain. I wanted to fix it. I wanted to make it better for them. But in this situation, there was no quick fix. There was no making it better. The best I could do was be honest and remind them that we were all in it together, all working through it. Looking back, I realized those moments were mirrors. The things they shared with me, their confusion, their hurt, their sense of not belonging, reflected exactly what I was feeling inside too. In some ways, they gave me the words I didn't always have the courage to say out loud. And in those raw, tender conversations, I think we all started to understand something important. That even though we felt out of place in the world, we still had a place with each other. Our family might look different, our traditions might have changed, but the love and the connection between us, that was still there. And that was the anchor we held on to. Identity and self. But maybe the hardest part of all wasn't about friends or family or even the holidays. It was about me. Because in the quiet moments when the kids were at school or the house felt still, I was left sitting with the question I had been avoiding. Who am I now? Who am I? I just, in these moments, I didn't know who I was without him. I wasn't his wife anymore. That identity had been ripped away. And while I still was, and I always will be, a mom, even that role was changing for me. My boys were getting older. They didn't need me in the same way they once did. They were becoming more independent, carving out their own lives. And as proud as I was of them, it left me with an ache. If they didn't need me in the same way and he didn't need me at all, then who did I belong to? For so long, I had defined myself by my relationships. Since I was 14 years old, I had been in a relationship with someone. 3 relationships in total, each one flowing into the next. I had never had that in-between space to just be me since I was 14 years old. I had never had time to figure out who Jenny was on her own without being tied to someone else's world. So when my marriage ended, it wasn't just the loss of a husband. It was like losing my own reflection. I didn't know what I looked like without him standing beside me. I didn't know what my future looked like without us in it. And to be honest, that's terrifying because starting over at that point in life isn't about picking up where you left off. It's about building a whole new identity from the ground up. I kept circling the same questions. What do I do? What are my goals now? What makes me happy? And the hardest part was that for a long time, I didn't have the answers to any of those questions. I only knew that I didn't want the lies, the betrayal, the constant feeling of not being enough. But what did I want for myself? And that part, I'm still learning exactly what I want for myself. And maybe that's okay. Maybe the work of this season is to discover who I am without any titles, without any roles, without any attachments. To figure out who I am when it's just me, standing alone on my own 2 feet. Some days that feels exciting, and other days it feels so overwhelming. But I know this much. I don't want to be defined by someone else ever again. I want to define myself. I want to find out what truly brings me joy, what lights me up, and what makes me feel whole all by myself. And maybe that's the real answer to the question of where do I fit? Maybe it's not about squeezing myself into old places. Maybe it's about creating a space that finally fits me. The text message. There was one moment in November that still lingers with me. It was the 1 year anniversary of my dad's death. That day already carried so much heaviness, grief, memory, the reminder of how quickly life can change. In my heart, I thought maybe, just maybe, he would show up for me in that moment. Not as my husband, not even as my friend, but simply as someone who had known me for more than half of my life. Someone who had walked beside me through the good and the bad, who knew what my dad meant to me. So I reached out to him, and what I got back, it wasn't what I needed. It wasn't the comfort, the tenderness, or even the acknowledgement I was hoping for. His response felt flat and almost empty. And in that moment, I realized something that hit me harder than I expected. I didn't fit into his life anymore. I wasn't the person he leaned on, and he wasn't the person I could turn to anymore. That text thread, as simple as it was, drew a line in the sand. The man I once shared everything with, my hopes, my fears, my daily life, even my grief, was no longer the one who could meet me in those places. That chapter had closed. And as painful as that realization was, it also carried a strange kind of clarity. Because sometimes the moments where we don't get what we're looking for are the very moments that force us to just let go. That text showed me in black and white that I couldn't keep trying to fit myself into a space I no longer belonged in. I couldn't keep hoping for the version of him that existed years before. He wasn't that same man anymore. And the truth was, I wasn't that same woman anymore either. It hurt and it left me feeling hollow for days. But in the long run, it also freed me. Because once you know for sure that you don't fit somewhere, you can stop twisting yourself to try. You can begin the slow, painful, but necessary work of building a space that actually feels like yours. So, where do I fit? Honestly, some days I still don't know. There are moments when I still feel like that third wheel again, sitting at a table where everyone else has their place and I'm just trying to figure out mine. There are days at my kids' events where I feel the absence of that family role I used to wear so easily when life looked so different. And there are those quiet moments at home where I still wrestle with my identity, still asking myself, who am I now when I'm not defined by someone else? But here's the thing, not knowing doesn't mean I'm lost. It just means I'm building. It means I'm in the process of creating new spaces, new traditions, new roles that actually fit with who I'm becoming. And maybe that's where you are too. Maybe you're listening right now and you feel like you don't belong in your own life anymore. Maybe you're trying to navigate changes that left you standing on the outside of everything familiar to you. If that's you, let me remind you of this. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are simply in transition, moving from what was into what will be. And even if you don't see it yet, you are shaping a place that will hold the real you. So I just want to add here at the end that over the last couple of years, my ex-husband and my relationship has progressed and shifted. He does come and help when asked. Just a couple months ago, I had an issue with my garage door and he did show up and help out with that. And as a matter of fact, just yesterday, he did come and help the kids and I with a water line that we need for new refrigerators. So we have progressed, we have made progress, and I'm proud of all of us for that. And before I go today, just a little reminder, don't forget I've got a special giveaway happening right now on my YouTube channel. Head over there, check out the details, and make sure you do everything you need to do to get entered to win the Mama Drama and Trauma Bundle giveaway. It's my way of saying thank you for being here, for listening, and for walking through this journey with me. It will include several little things and this cute ghost blankie that is so cute. I love it so much. It's nice and cozy, soft and comfortable. I have all kinds of these blankets throughout my house because I seem to hoard blankets. I love throws. I love blankets. And I have tons of this, not the ghost. I don't have the ghost, but I do have tons. I actually have one on my lap right now. It's the same blanket. It's just has ghosts on it. I thought it was cute for Halloween. So go ahead, head over to YouTube, check out the giveaway, and do everything you need to do to win all kinds of cool little prizes, as well as the cute little ghost blankie. As always, you are strong, you are worthy, and your story matters. Until next time, take care of you.